Knights are among the most feared soldiers in all of history. It's armored warriors on horseback, who could level an entire village in mere minutes. Their strength and combat prowess was legendary. But while their armor may have dazzled their enemies, there's one thing that really struck fear into the hearts of those who opposed them: their unbreakable code of honor and loyalty. What were the iron laws that medieval knights had to swear by? And what would happen if they broke them? Today we look at Iron and Oath, the code of medieval knights. It was 1346, and the Black Death was sweeping across Europe. Entire villages were being wiped out, and even the English King David was dead after contracting the disease. It fell upon King Edward III to rally his knights for one last stand against the encroaching darkness. He looked over his men, the flower of English knighthood, and gave a rousing speech about how they were about to be called to do God's work, smiting the pestilence and saving the realm all around him. The knights roared with excitement, eager to get into the thick of battle. But when he turned to Sir Robert Knowles, he saw something that made his blood run cold. Knowles' eyes weren't shining with righteous fury. They were wide with fear. "I can't do it," he said, turning pale. "I am no man's knight. I refuse to fight." Edward was shocked. Could this be the end of knighthood itself? This moment of truth laid bare the fundamental dilemma of medieval knights. The medieval knight was bound by an unbreakable oath to fight and defend the weak. But when faced with an invisible and all-consuming enemy, how did they reconcile that duty with the will to survive? In medieval Europe, a knight wasn't just a soldier. He was an instrument of God. In fact, the very title knight originated from the Latin word nobilis, meaning noble. While the common foot soldier was often seen as little more than cannon fodder, the knight was expected to uphold an elevated code of conduct, both on and off the battlefield. When a young nobleman decided to become a knight, he would enter into a sacred contract known as a fief. This obliged him to perform military service for his lord in exchange for land and titles. But the knightly code went beyond simple military obligations. At its heart was the idea of service to God, king, and country. A knight's first duty was to his faith, which required him to be a devout Christian, exemplifying piety and virtue in his daily life. He was expected to attend Mass regularly, pray diligently, and resist temptation, especially regarding women. Any knight found engaging in sexual activity outside of marriage risked not only damnation, but also damage to his reputation and standing among his peers. A knight's second duty was to his king and kingdom. To be a royal knight was the highest honor a medieval warrior could attain. Royal knights were expected to be utterly loyal to their monarch, putting the king's interests above their own and defending the kingdom's honor against all comers. Part of this obligation included being prepared to lay down one's life in defense of the crown. A knight's third duty was to the weak and defenseless. Contrary to popular perception, medieval knights were not just merciless killing machines. They were also supposed to be champions of the oppressed, standing up for those who couldn't defend themselves. This applied particularly to women, children, and the elderly. A knight who preyed on the weak or failed to protect them risked forfeiting his knighthood and becoming an outcast. The importance of these duties is further emphasized by the elaborate ceremonies that surrounded the creation of a new knight. The process of creating a knight was not just a formality. It was a profound transformation that initiated the nobleman into an exclusive brotherhood bound by an unbreakable oath. The ceremony typically took place during a royal tournament and involved a series of symbolic rituals designed to instill the values of knighthood in the neophyte. The ritual would start with the aspirant being blessed by a church leader, signifying the importance of divine favor in the knightly order. Then came the actual investiture, where the aspirant was presented with the symbols of knighthood, most importantly, the sword and shield. The sword represented courage and justice, while the shield symbolized defense and protection. The new knight would then be required to swear an oath, pledging to uphold the values of his order and serve his king and God. After taking the oath, the new knight would be dubbed or struck on the shoulder with a sword, signifying the pain and hardship that knighthood would entail. Finally, the knight would be given a new name, often chosen to reflect his values or deeds. These elaborate ceremonies not only marked the transition from nobleman to knight, but also served as a constant reminder of the high ideals and strict code of conduct that govern their lives. But what happened if a knight broke his solemn oath? The consequences of breaking the knightly oath were severe and far-reaching. A knight who violated his vows was not only subject to the wrath of his peers, but also risked damnation. The punishment for such transgressions could range from fines to imprisonment, depending on the severity of the offense. For example, a knight who deserted his post or refused to fight might be fined a sum of money, while a knight who committed a serious offense like raping a civilian or killing a fellow knight might be thrown into prison. Moreover, a knight's oath obligated him to participate in 3 major duties: attendance at court, military service, and protection of the weak. Failure to fulfill these duties could result in the knight being stripped of his rank and privileges. A knight who failed to attend court when summoned, shirk his military responsibilities, or who neglected those he was supposed to protect could be tried by a special court, the court of Chivalry, and have his rank revoked. Such a dishonorable discharge could bring a knight's career to an end, forcing him to live out the remainder of his days as a commoner. For medieval knights, their oath was more than just a solemn promise. It was a way of life. Upholding their oaths was essential not only to maintain their honor and standing, but also to ensure the safety and well-being of their society. The consequences of breaking one's oath were severe, serving as a constant reminder of the gravity of their commitment. In a time when honor and duty were paramount, the unbreakable bond forged by a knight's oath stood as a testament to the power of commitment and the price one paid for its violation. But now it's time for you to take up your metaphorical sword and join the battle in the comments section. Do you think you could live up to the ideals of a medieval knight? Would you be able to resist the temptation to break your oath for personal gain? Share your thoughts below. And do not forget to like and subscribe for more epic tales of medieval knights and other historical warriors.